Hello, everyone. My name is Hillary, aka Kay, and this is Kay's Cozy Corner. Okay, so today we are going to be making this sweet dream thing. I've already made two. So I've made this one, and I also made this one. Yes, very cute. This is a little faux cake that I made out of a wood block, paint, and caulk. Let's get started. Okay, so as I'm making this, I will also be talking about, the many cons of immortality. I think that immortality is really overhyped and that, frankly, sounds kind of awful. And probably not for some of the reasons that you think. By the way, my drink matches my outfit. Black and white top. You can't see it, but I'm wearing a black skirt. Also, pop of green because this is a matcha. Again, you cannot see my matcha, but it's a matcha. Delicious. I made it at home. All right, let's get started. So, first things first, it says we're going to make a cabinet. I love doing these because I feel like a little builder, and it's, of course, not true because I'm not a builder. To first start talking about immortality, what is immortality? So, immortality basically means that you're living forever, right? It does not mean that you're invulnerable, though, which is my big gripe. Why? Why? Now, some people are immortal and invulnerable. Some people are really immortal because they have transcended humanity and whatever, so they're just in a league of their own for real. But for the rest of us who couldn't gain immortality, you have it and you can still get hurt. That's ridiculous. That's so silly. Sorry, there are going to be a lot of pauses in this because it's a lot of me looking at this and going, which direction is this? A very common immortal being that people talk about a lot has to be the vampire, and I get it. A lot of people find vampires hot. Okay, whatever. That's a conversation for a different time. I think that being a vampire sort of sounds like trash. Oh, I can hear people now. How dare you? Vampires are so cool. If I were to be anything, I would be a vampire. And you know what? Good for you. Good for you. And I wish you all the best in being a vampire. I know that me, personally, I wouldn't like that. Now, I do go out into the sun. And I don't want to get hurt by that. So, to talk a bit more about vampires and why I think their immortality is kind of janky. So, there are many different ways to get rid of vampires. They are not the invulnerable immortals. They can perish through getting staked through the heart. I too would perish if that happened to me. If they go out into the sun, and this isn't true of all vampires, if you're like, well, in this vampire thing that I watched or read, that didn't happen. And to that I say, yeah, people have a lot of different interpretations of how vampires should demise. So, but yeah, they can be staked through the heart. They can be set ablaze by the sun. They can sort of fizzle, not necessarily die. if they are around holy objects. And then back in the day, they had some real complicated stuff about what vampires could and couldn't do. So they were like, yeah, if you go to a vampire's grave and then as they're sleeping in there, you cut off their head and then stake them, then they'll be really dead. The whole thing about vampires is just that they're a little bit of a menace and people really want them gone. But media really does show vampirism as being so cool. Now, one of my favorite shows, yeah, it's a really good show and I enjoy it, is What We Do in the Shadows. And it talks about, the kind of not so fun and glamorous parts of being a vampire. Like, you would have to have a minion 24/7 because how are you supposed to do anything? Also, so this conversation is all in relation to an essay. And in that essay, I talk about the fact that how are vampires supposed to earn money? And here's something that I've noticed. People, by people, I mean in shows and books and whatnot, they do not talk about how these vampires are earning money. They just talk about, old vampires, people who are ancient. Like, they've been alive for forever and they're ancient. And they just have money. I'm thinking, what if you returned during or after the Industrial Revolution in a Western country? Like, what are you supposed to do? You can't get a job. Imagine being turned as a vampire right now. How are you supposed to get a job? The remote work is being taken away from a lot of people. How are you supposed to get a job? Like, you would have to almost exclusively work at night, which is fine for some people, but not fine for most. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, that should frankly be a real non-issue. But if you are a vampire, you have to think about that. You do. We live in a capitalist society, and that capitalist society says that you have to earn a living in order to get healthcare. Also, how is healthcare working as a vampire? Who knows? But since they can't go out during the day, they can't have daytime jobs, so that means that they can't work in a corporate office or really just sort of any office space. So that would mean that they're almost exclusively working at night. And unfortunately, a lot of night jobs are not paid well. So they're not going to be earning a lot of money for modern vampires. Also, I don't understand how vampires aren't moving all the time. But whatever. I could talk about why vampires confuse me for forever. And I that's not what this is about. This is about immortality in general. Oh shucks. Y'all, this looks adorable thus far. Can you see it? It's adorable thus far. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is going to take me forever and a day, so there are going to be a lot of jumps, and you're going to go, wow, when was that finished? It was finished. That's all you need to know. Where are my beads? And I tell you, these beads are tiny. They're teensy. Itty bitty. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull out the tweezers. Beep beep. Now, a creature that isn't immortal that I would 100% love to become, a werewolf. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, wow, that's what you're dogging on. Well, those tweezers are not doing anything. That's why you're dogging on vampires. It's because you actually like werewolves more. I don't believe that we have to live in a binary where it's either or. I think you can absolutely like both. It's just that I personally don't like vampires as a concept. Oh my gosh. I finished one. Yay! Also, each time I showed this to you guys, I feel like an Animal Crossing character. I've completed a lot of stuff since I last saw you. This already. Yes, it's a little shelf cabinet. Now there's a little desk thing. And then we have it's a little shelf that goes on the wall. Adorable. We also have signs. I don't know how well you can see these. So you can sort of see nothing except shapes, but that's all that matters. I made these, ignore that. And I want to talk to you about another immortal. Okay, a man who actually wished for immortality. Okay? Walter Bedecker. If you are familiar with The Twilight Zone, then you maybe have watched the Walter Bedecker episode. And if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, apologies. But essentially, Walter is a guy who meets a person, and that person says, I can give you immortality if you give me your soul, basically. Like, we're going to go into a little contract. Okay. And Walter's like, yeah, I'm tired of, getting injured and stuff. So he does have the invulnerable immortality. Guess what, y'all? In the Twilight Zone episode, he has a wife, and after he gets his immortality, she's concerned because he's doing a lot of really scary stuff. He's going around and setting himself on fire and doing all kinds of wild stuff that is truly not advisable at all. And he's just trying to test his invulnerability. He's been eating stuff that's poisonous, and she's concerned, and he goes up onto a really tall building because he wants to see, okay, well, what would happen if I fell off? And she's up there with him going, Walter, this is wild, you're acting weird, I'm concerned for you, blah, 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 blah. And she falls off. Girl. You know what his first words are? I wonder how that felt. You wonder how that felt? Oh my gosh. And then he is sentenced because nobody believed that she just fell off that building, because why would you? Everything about that is wild and shocking. He was sentenced to life in prison. Life in prison. Y'all think about this for a second. What are the two things that he is? Immortal. And what? He gets sentenced to life in prison. It's like truly worst case scenario. And then after a certain point, he's like, wow, I hate this so much. I don't want to be here. And then the guy who's basically a devil is like, time to reap that contract. And then he dies. It's one of those wild Twilight Zone episodes. And I know what you're thinking. Aren't all the Twilight Zone episodes wild? No. Some of them are, sort of life lessons about how we treat others and how we interact with the world. And then some are like this, where it's like, wow, yeah, I guess don't do deals with the devil. But I already knew that from The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I'm in the final throes. I mean, I made this bag. I made it far too big. Oops. I made some tiny paper bags. I made a whole bunch of stuff. I made a little book. I made this accordion. Can you see it? You can't really see that, but now I'm going to make the bed, and hopefully life gets easier. All right. We're going to cut some orange fabric and fold it. Before I do that, I need to figure out how big this bed is. So this is, I'm pretty sure, the bottom of everything. So I'm gonna put that there. I'm so scared. I'm so scared that I've made everything too big. This bed is looking teensy. This bag is as big as this bed. No. Okay, it's going to be comically large. That's okay. As I think about my mistakes, let's talk about Phoenix. The Phoenix. Not any of the basketball teams or any of the many sports teams. No. I'm talking about the fiery bird. If you're unfamiliar with the story of the Phoenix, it's that there's a fiery bird that hatches from an egg, as most, if not all, birds do, and it lives its life, and then once it perishes, it burns and then reforms in an egg. Now, tell me that's not very cool. Doesn't that sound awesome? I mean, not the whole burning and then reforming part necessarily, but it sounds cool in concept. Like, not in actuality, I wouldn't want to do that, but that sounds really cool. Now I know what you're thinking. Whoa, immortality that Hillary agrees with. Listen, it's not that I disagree with any of these, immortal beings, I guess. It's really just that I think the whole process of immortality is not only gross, but also mostly really scary and bad. The idea of burning in order to be reborn, personally, don't like the idea of that, but that's just me. Other people can do it just fine. And I'll say this, my favorite character from Dropout.tv's Dimension 20's Fantasy High is Ida Eggfort, the daughter of the Phoenix and a black wizard man. Families come in all shapes and sizes. And also, sometimes your dad's a wizard and your other parent is a phoenix. And so that means that she is rebirthed all the time. And with her living so many lives, she has notes from her past lives, and they tell her how to do X and how to do Y. But the idea of living forever and then not seeing those that you love again as you continue on, and in Ida's case, basically being a completely different person, but I do love her. When Brennan Lee Mulligan played her, I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to love you forever because you remind me of me in some ways. But yeah, I can't imagine living that life, frankly. But hey, pros and cons. Pro, she's a librarian. Pro, I'm a librarian. Well, about to be. Con, I just. I actually don't even like being hot. So being warm and then perishing and then being a baby again? And then who's supposed to raise me? You know? And then you have to like arrange for daycare for your future self in case you perish. And that's a whole thing to think about. Yeah. All of that just seems really complicated. Also, this has really nothing to do with what I was saying. Whatever this black stuff is, I don't know what this is. It is getting everywhere. My fingers are black. I don't know what's going on. We are almost done. I usually make these in a few days, so doing this all at once was absolutely the wrong move. So, about immortality. Again, this video might make me sound a bit like a hater, especially a hater of vampires. I don't think vampires are bad. In fact, I think it's fascinating that so much stuff can take them down, considering they seem like on paper you would think, oh, this thing is invulnerable. But then it's actually like, well, if you look at it wrong, then it's gone. And I just think that's neat. That's neat that that was a choice that was made. I also think immortality is fine as a concept. It's not something that I would like. I don't like the idea of being conscious for forever. That just is not something that sparks joy. Also, I'm going to fix stuff. Okay, so I will come back and show you what it looks like at the very, very end, because I am going to change some stuff because, oh golly gee, there was stuff there was stuff that I did a little wrong, and now I want to change it. Hello? 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 Okay. Y'all, I've made so many mistakes. I've made so many mistakes while making this. It's actually egregious. These are completely backwards. But I promise you, once you see that finished product, you're gonna go, wow, I would have never known if you hadn't have said something. Okay, so how well you can see this. This is how it turned out. Don't worry about the outside. I made a lot of mistakes, but you would never be able to tell. Um, it doesn't matter what it was supposed to look like because this is all about creativity, and that's what was most important. Also, if you would like to read something that doesn't quite sound like nonsense and actually sounds like it was a little researched, I do have an essay called The Many Cons of Immortality on my website. I'll put my website in the description. And I have a whole bunch of essays there. I have a whole bunch. I have 4. Okay, let's lower roll. Okay, but yeah, this was fun. Mostly partially, and it's over and it's done with, and I'm happy that it's over and done with, and I get to add another one to my collection. So I will see you all next time. Bye.